Evicting a tenant can seem like a complicated process, but in this video we'll quickly explain the eviction laws in Maine and outline some simple steps that landlords can take to initiate an eviction. In this video, we'll talk about what the eviction process looks like, Maine laws that determine how evictions are handled, and how to legally remove a non-compliant tenant from a property. Be sure to watch to the end of this video to find a link to a fillable eviction notice. First, what is an eviction? Eviction is the legal process of removing a tenant from a property. When a tenant has not paid rent, it's illegal for a landlord to change the property's locks, cut off utilities, or physically remove a tenant from that property. If the tenant refuses to leave after violating the terms of a lease agreement, the landlord must seek an eviction from a court. One thing to note is that an eviction is different from the simple termination of a lease. A landlord can opt not to renew a lease after the specified term has ended, and there is no need to involve a court in this process. When a tenant breaches the terms of a lease agreement in Maine, a landlord can issue one of two eviction notices. Each applies to a different situation. The first is a 7-day notice to quit for non-payment. The landlord uses this form with a tenant that fails to pay rent on time. The state of Maine allows a 15-day grace period after a rent payment has been missed. After 15 days, if the rent has not been paid, the tenant will receive a notice to quit, ordering the tenant to pay up within 7 days or face eviction. The second version of this form is the 7-day notice to quit for non-compliance. This is used when the tenant is found to have breached the lease in some way that is not related to the payment of rent. For example, if the tenant has a guest over who threatens violence or sexual assault on the premises, this is usually grounds for issuing a non-compliance notice. Causing substantial damage to the property is also grounds for eviction. The form gives the tenant a choice to rectify the problem within 7 days or face eviction. There's another type of eviction called the 30-day notice to quit, and this gets used to terminate a month-to-month tenancy when a tenant has not committed a violation of the lease agreement. This tells the tenant that the landlord does not intend to renew the lease for the following month, and so the tenant must vacate the property within 30 days. If the tenant is served with a notice to quit and does not respond appropriately, the landlord may bring the eviction suit. In Maine, this is known as a forcible entry and detainer action. The suit is filed when the landlord files two forms, known as the complaint and the summons, with the court. This can be found on the eForms website or obtained at the clerk's office. The fee to file them is $75. The complaint outlines the reasons for eviction, and the summons sets a court date. Copies of each form must be taken to the local sheriff's office and served on the tenant. If this is not possible, copies should be sent via certified mail. These documents must be served on the tenant at least 7 days before the court hearing. If there are multiple tenants, each tenant needs to receive a personal copy of the summons. A form called an Affidavit of Service, which confirms the forms were sent, must then be filed with the court. If the tenant fails to appear at the hearing, or if the tenant does not appear but the court rules in the landlord's favor, the tenant will have to vacate the property. If the tenant refuses to leave, the landlord can obtain a form known as a request for issuance of writ of possession from the eForms website or from court. If the court issues a writ of possession, a sheriff can issue it to remove the tenant and the tenant's possessions from the property. Going to court to seek an eviction can be a daunting process, but we have everything you need to get the process started, from eviction notices to court documents. You can access it all at the link below. And don't forget to click subscribe to see more videos about legal issues important to property owners.